All right, welcome in everybody. Thank you for joining. Today we have a different kind of episode. We are going to start with doing a podcast, and our guest tonight is Devil's Night Gaming. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to introduce him here in a second. So, without further ado, let's say hi to Devil's Night. All right, everybody say hello, Devil's Night.
What up?
Welcome in.
Cheers. 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 Thank you for having me.
No problem. Let's get you a shout out here real quick. Everybody, please make sure to go drop him a follow. Awesome streamer. Very chill. Mainly plays Star Citizen, but like all of us, when it stops working, he plays other things. What have you been
Well,
playing recently besides that? Rocket League
I
or?
try I try not to play other things, but Star Citizen makes me. Um no, I play Rocket League and there's one game I can't talk about that I play, but
Oh.
yeah, NDA.
Oh, is it a beta or something?
Yes, yes, very closed beta. Very fun.
Gotcha.
Very
Awesome.
fun.
Can I take
Yeah.
a guess? And you don't have to say yes or
Um
no.
I you could take a guess, but I can't answer in any which way or form.
Cool. Is it Dune Awakening?
Like I said, I can't answer in any
Awesome.
way or form.
I love being right. All right. Uh oh fuck. All right, I guess I got to put the Mario hat on. Where is it? If I can find it. People on YouTube are going to be like, "Why the hell is he wearing a Mario hat?" But it's fine. It's
Hey,
cool.
I lit up my turtle shell in the back.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do today's episode, everybody. Is I thought for once it would be nice to kind of get to know the streamers that you follow and that you watch and that you hear in these kind of discussions. So we're gonna take a little bit of time to get to know Devil's Night Gaming here. How long have you been streaming?
Let's see. I think I started back in 2001 and then didn't really maybe it was 2020 and then didn't really take it serious till like 22 and in September of 22 I got my affiliate.
Nice.
So yeah, a little bit, not too long, but a little bit.
So what made you first start getting into streaming?
Oh God, um, I don't know, man. I just saw this thing on like I started streaming off of my PlayStation 4. It's like stream to Twitch. I wonder what that is. I didn't even know, what Twitch really was back then. And I was like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's do it. And I did. And I think I streamed Arc content in the very, very beginning under a very different name that we will not go into.
Got you. All right. So there's been some
But
name changes.
there was one name change. Yes, one name change, and that's like around the time when I started taking my streaming seriously. Like, okay, let's change it. And I got Devil's Night Gaming from an old guild I ran in a mobile MMO called Devil's Night, and it's
Oh.
based off of Halloween. So my favorite night of the year.
Oh, cool. I never
Yeah,
discovered that one. Um,
yeah. So that's what it is. Makes no sense. Like, why would you be gaming on the coolest night of the year? But whatever.
so that kind of ties into my next question. So, what was your first MMO? Was it, and yeah, I guess, were you more of a
Oh,
console guy or a PC guy growing up?
so no, growing up, definitely PC. Um, like, okay, so first console was an Atari 6400. Then we had the Nintendo. Like, I had a Nintendo, um, back in the 90s, like late 80s, back into the early 90s, and then went to Sega, went to Super, and then like right when I was around 18. I mean, we've always had PCs in the house since we were little kids, but we're talking like 286 machines. So nothing you could really do some serious gaming back then on. Like we had weird typing games and stuff like that. And I think SimCity 2000 or something like that too. And
That
then when
was
I was
awesome.
18, we got our first gaming computer. And dude, I was all into the flight sims. It was Jane's Combat Flight Sim,
Nice. Yeah. Did you ever play,
and
what was it called? Longbow? No, what was it? Yeah, Longbow, wasn't it? The
I
helicopter one?
I don't think I played that one. It sounds vaguely familiar. but I don't think I played that one.
But
And
yeah,
then
those were awesome games. That whole series was
yeah, and Mech 3 Warrior
yes.
was another good one that and the original uh Team Fortress Classic was big back then.
I never got into that.
So I got into those ones, but I mean, shit, I was like 18 years old.
So like, what
So
was your first MMO then?
MMO. Oh, probably I would probably it was that mobile game. It's called Torm Online. The That's one that I have the most. I think that's the first MMO I really truly played. I know that kind of sounds sus, but yeah, it was that mobile game, and I
Gotcha.
played that. I've got probably about 5,000 hours into that game.
And did you ever get into like the World of Warcrafts? The
No,
no,
no, I
never.
tried it, did not like it, hated it.
Interesting.
Not my thing, not my
Okay,
jam.
cool. Well, you lucked out there. Actually,
Yeah,
is for a lot of people.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
okay. So then, when did you discover Star Citizen?
That's funny. So back in January of 23, um, I think I had just got my computer, this gaming computer that I'm on now. Um, and I was just in a Discord call with one of my friends, and I was like, dude, I need to find a good space game. And I Googled Star Citizen, or I Googled good space games that were
Mm-hmm.
out, and Star Citizen popped up. And I'm like, I start checking it out, and I'm like, dude, this is cool. Hopped on Steam, looking for it, and I was like, wait, where do I even get this game? And then found out you had to get it through Robert Space Industries website and all that, and played through the end of 317 and a little bit of 318. Didn't pick it up like seriously till last year, at the end of last year.
Gotcha.
So it
And
was a little bit of downtime.
but what specifically in the game brought you into it? Was there like an aspect of it? Was it the open world? Was it the fact that you can go from station to planet back to
S-
station? Like,
Station to planet, the ships, like just all of it. Like that's what I thought was most interesting about it. Like I wanted to try something new and different. I was a Star Citizen baby back then. I didn't know what I was getting into. And I just knew that like okay, so I played a little bit of not Elite Dangerous, the other one, No Man's Sky.
yeah,
And I have a few hours on console on that game, and I was like, I need something better than No Man's Sky. So I kind of was just looking around and saw Star Citizen and got hooked. But yeah, the ship to ship combat is what really interests me a lot.
got you. So would you say you're more of a PvP or PvE player, in the, since you're
Um,
more ship combat oriented?
for the ship to ship combat right now, PVE, but I want it. I'm on mouse and keyboard, and I know people say that's not a limitation, but when you're going up somebody with sticks, flight sticks in PvP, it's a world of difference.
So
Like world of difference.
you know that a
But I
lot
want to.
of the top PvPers are on mouse and keyboard.
Is that really like? Then maybe I just suck as a pilot.
No, no, no. It's one thing. The one thing that some of them will add that gives them a boost is pedals, like rudder
Okay.
pedals. So some of them will be mouse and keyboard with pedals, but like for example, Deadfrag, who's a really good pirate, really chill guy, and one of the hosts over on Griefers Pub, he plays only mouse and keyboard. And the reason why mouse and keyboard is a little better is because you can react a little quicker with the mouse for aiming than you can with the joystick. Everything
Okay.
else, but see, I'm with you. I prefer doing it all on joysticks, more for the immersion. But
Mm-hmm.
they are they're one of the things I've always said to people about Star Citizen that I think is one of the greatest things is that the sticks aren't a limitation in this game. You really can do everything with a mouse and keyboard, and I feel like they did a
Mm-hmm.
really good job at mapping that out and making it make sense.
Yeah.
Even though recently we have a bunch of weird keybinds that have been popping up, but just then things changing
Yeah.
place and going in
Yeah.
different spots and too many things to do. But anyways, but so like I get where you're coming from, and like that was my thing actually is I've never been good at PvP, so I'm not the professional there, but I do know a lot of the guys that who have tried to train me in PvP actually mainly play
Mm-hmm.
on mouse and keyboard. So um,
Okay. See, I've heard of people like some of the PvP players, they'll use a left joystick and the mouse
yes, that's super
as, and
common.
then yeah. And so like actually in the at the end of April, if everything goes through, fingers crossed, I will be getting a set of VKBs. So
Nice.
I'm just hoping that it goes through.
VKBs
So I'll
are
be
awesome.
looking forward to that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I
have
can't wait to go through the tireless, endless mapping of buttons that people seem to have a lot of trouble doing with it.
so it's just a time sink. You just got to spend one time like
Mm-hmm.
30-45 minutes doing it. But it's actually a little bit longer of a process than that because you'll start okay, so some people just like grabbing other people's controller map.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to make my own based on what I thought made the most sense and what
Right.
felt right to me. So it took me a while to get it kind of dialed in, and there's still things I should change and I will change, but so far it's it's working out for me. But I'd say you have two avenues, and I would even if you take somebody's map, then I would still say spend some time seeing if you like all that mapping. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then the
I'd
one mistake
definitely
everybody
be the kind
makes.
of guy that would map my own,
Yeah,
probably, and try to figure it out that way. Because I when I'm mapping something to a controller or anything, I learn better, and it'll be better muscle memory for me knowing where I put it instead of where somebody else put it. You know,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
I'm.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I did it. And then,
Yep.
what makes sense to one person may not make sense to somebody else. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, we're used to all having a certain amount of default controls and keybinds, right? So some stuff is going to be the same for everybody, but then there's a lot of little tweaks you can do. And then the VKBs are awesome because there are tons of buttons everywhere. So have
Yeah.
fun with
Yeah.
that.
I'm definitely not going for the pro version on him. I was like, it's like $60 for a couple extra buttons. Nah, I'm good.
I mean, no, it's actually. I mean, it's actually. I have that version, um,
Do you?
for the Omni and for the what's it
Okay.
called, the straight up, and you can honestly find deals where it's going to be pretty much the same price,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that might be the way to go. But it
Okay.
the extra button there on the thumb around the grip is very helpful, and it's
Is it?
also a nice thumb rest, and it's ergonomically a little nicer on the hand.
Okay. Well,
So
maybe that's something to consider then.
if you're gonna go, because if you're gonna make the leap for VKBs as your first sticks, you might as well go all in.
Okay. I
Um,
mean, that's definitely a good point. I'll keep that in
or,
mind.
and some people will say not to do this, but I still recommend it. If you're trying to save money, Thrustmaster T16000s, I started off with those. It's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
fine. They're really
Yeah.
not bad sticks.
My thought process on that is, if I'm going to get sticks, I don't want to not waste money, but put money into a set of sticks and then eventually upgrade to something else, because I know for sure that I do want the VKBs. So it's like I gotta, I'm thinking about like the money aspect of it, if that makes sense.
No, and I think VKBs are a better investment,
Mm-hmm.
having gone through both set of sticks because dude, you're gonna love this. I love this when I got this personally. Is there were so many little extras that come with it. So like for example, I broke my first spring in my Omni throttle like a few days ago. There's like 10 extras in in the box. So you can break them forever and
Mm-hmm.
like just keep replacing them and the everything works.
Yeah. I was I found a pair of the gladiators on Facebook Market, and the guy wanted $175 for them, for both of them. And I messaged him so many times, like, "Hey, I want these. I'll pick them up right now. I'll pick them up right now. Doesn't
Probably
matter
already
if they're
sold
broken. Let me see.
them.
let me take a look at them. And he's like, they already sold or something like that.
Yeah.
He was just kind of a jackass about it.
Yeah, I had the same experience trying to buy a guy's BMW. I called him. He's like, "Oh, I sold that thing 3 weeks ago." I was like, "You should probably take it off the internet then."
Yeah, take it
It's
off the
like,
internet. Exactly.
what's up, Bright? Welcome in, Bounty Hunter. I actually, so funny story about the VKBs, which for me is another selling point on them. I spilled soda on them like an asshole by
Ooh.
accident. So what you can do with the VKBs that you can't really do with the Thrustmasters is you can really completely take it apart. And with rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip, I clean the entire
Mm-hmm.
thing out. It works just like new.
Nice. Nice.
And
Yeah, see, I feel like they're quality. I definitely feel like they're quality sticks.
I mean, and like I said, I broke my first spring. It was awesome because there's like literally, they give you 3 different resistances that you can try, uh, 10, 20, and 30 pounds. And honestly, like they, yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the whole VKB experience. And at first I had one VKB, one Thrustmaster, and
Mm-hmm.
then it was a no-brainer to go full VKBs.
Full VKBs, yeah.
But it's
Well,
something to look
hopefully
forward to,
April.
and it's awesome for immersion
Oh
in the
yeah.
verse. One thing I do highly recommend for PvP though that I have found that helps me is head tracking.
Yeah, that's something I kind of have been looking at. That's going to be after flight sticks, though. I definitely would love to do the head tracking with like Toby or whichever one. I haven't really done too much research on it, but yeah, head
I
tracking I
use
feel like would be a must.
Track IR. It's the cheaper of the two,
Okay.
and honestly, it's what all the low or most of the low flyers use because it gives you a little bit more movement and freedom to have your eyes kind of looking wherever you want. But Toby is really good. Like you should go check out
Okay.
that guy Dead Frag. I'll send you his Twitch, or maybe he'll show up and I'll shout him
Okay.
out. And yeah,
Cool.
you should go see what he does because he's mouse and keyboard with Toby, and he's a force to be reckoned with.
Cool. 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 Cool.
And that's right. Yeah, right. Points it out. You can actually turn off the eye tracking with the Toby, and it makes it a
Mm-hmm.
little easier. And I know Toby's been getting a lot better. So, but I'm very happy with my track IR. The biggest drawback of track IR is dealing with the cord. It's really annoying.
Oh,
But
okay.
besides that, you're all right. Okay, on to a couple more questions. So, what's your favorite game loop in Star Citizen?
Well, it was the red, yellow, and orange ship to ship combat missions. But they were mostly borked. So I've been kind of getting into the cargo aspect of it, and I'm finding that it's not as tedious as I once thought. Um, I don't mind sitting in the pilot seat, whether it's, flying somebody somewhere or uh, sitting in the pilot seat for the reclaimer while everybody else does their reclaiming stuff,
Yeah,
or scraping. But I guess if you just put me in the pilot seat, I'm happy. I'm 100% happy with it.
that's dope.
Yeah.
I I've kind of gotten back into salvage and mining recently, but for a long time, that's you made a really good point. Star Citizen, the problem is like, does it work right now or not?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
kind of determines what you do. All right, and then
Well,
yep. I'm sorry.
they took off the red, yellow, and orange uh missions, so I don't have I don't have that to do anymore. So you got HRTs, and the it's just not the same. It's not the same. But
No, I
yeah,
get it.
so I've been exploring some other. I want to try to do mining here soon. Just because I haven't tried it at all. I think the most I ever mined was a short stint in prison one time, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I think this was way back when I first tried it. And yeah, so I haven't tried that, but I would like to give it a shot.
Mining's interesting. The hand mining is pretty straightforward once you
Mm-hmm.
understand the whole power mechanic. Also, it doesn't tell you what the keybinds are normally. So if you don't have the like hints on, it will not tell you. And when I started doing that, there were no hints. So it was basically ask
Right.
global, how do I do this? And yeah,
Right.
and then you can apply the same logic to ship mining. Or I've never rock mined actually. That one I have never done, but I've gotten back into mining. It's better. It works, but it's
Hmm.
definitely something I think kind of like salvage that's better as a group. Like you stay more
I
entertained.
Yeah, I would definitely. I couldn't go sit on in a. I've done it sitting in a vulture by myself. It's just that's not for me. Sitting in a reclaimer though, hanging out with the guys while they're doing scraping or whatever, and if they need me downstairs unloading boxes, I'm okay with that too. Like I don't mind as long as you put me in the pilot seat. I'm happy as can be.
Awesome. All right. So last question: how do you? What's your personal, or as much as you're willing to share, opinion of the state of the game right now?
Hmm. Well, seeing as how I have probably, I think about close to 400 hours in the game, and that's mostly due to recent hours. Because I didn't play much of 3.18 and I didn't know what I was doing back then. I still don't know what I'm doing in the game right now. I mean, I have a better concept of what I'm doing. Um, I would say that, like, I think it's awesome that they are putting this year towards patches and fixing it and rewriting code elevators or elevator codes. And I think that's good. But I it frustrates me sometimes, but I just have to remember, hey, this game is an alpha. Um, you have to be patient. As much as I curse at it, I always take a step back and I'm like, yeah, this is an alpha, and you got to understand that. That's what it is. So, am I happy with the state of the game where it's at right now? I mean, I don't have the experience of somebody that backed in like 2012 or back whenever and has many more years in this game. So, I like where it's at and I see it progressing, but it's just the only thing is I could say is just be patient with it, Like I think it's in a decent spot. It's not in the best spot, but it's in a decent spot.
Gotcha. How do you feel like it? How do you feel about it since the beginning of the year? Do you feel like there's
Oh, I
been
was so
a
mad when they
real?
took vacation. I was
Yeah.
so mad when they were on vacation. That was a dark time in my life. No, but when they came back and they started talking about like, especially the live stream that they did last with Benoit and Jared, that actually like gave me hope of what they where they were going with it. Like we're focusing on this year. No new features. It was they'll add content but no new features, and they were primarily focusing on fixing the bugs, which I think is like a fantastic thing. And I think the Star Citizen community, they deserve it. They really, really deserve that kind of attention to it. And so it gave me a lot of hope. So, but
Gotcha.
like what is it to that? It's CIG. Like, I mean, they say one thing and do another.
Yeah, they're really good at
Yeah,
that.
no new features adds tier zero item reclaim. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true. Yeah, yeah.
Well, we'll get into that a bit more in the second part of the show. So, what we're gonna do right now is, well, thanks for letting us get to know you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. So, I'm gonna do a quick be right back so I can get the next part ready, and we'll get more commercials out of the way, and that way it's an easy break for editing, also. But anyways, so now we're gonna start talking a little bit more about the game. So I kind of started bringing it up a little bit at the end there when we were chatting, but what's your current feeling on the verse, the experience? Like, is it? Would you say it's good? Would you say it's terrible? Would you say it's as bad as 318? But no, wait, you said you didn't play in 318. You were smart.
I didn't play much of 318, and I will tell you this, what I did play of 318, this is way better than 318. Although sometimes it does feel 318-ish, especially with the elevators. right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's getting better. It's getting better, and like I'm definitely appreciative of that. But to have like I was saying, to have that hope that they're doing, they're working on this year purely on bug fixes is it's very hopeful, very hopeful. So I see it going in a good direction, and I mean, I like where it's at right now. I know a lot of people don't like where it's at right now, but I guess I'm just um, one of the people that understands, hey, yeah, it's an alpha. It's going to be buggy, and I know that there's other people that are like been backers for years, and they're like, man, f this, I can't do this crap anymore, and
Yeah. Yeah, and I
they'll
think
come back
both.
when the game's in a. And I know friends that have been backers for a while, and they're like, I'm not coming back to the game till it's on release, till 1.0 release,
I
and
think that's fair, because you
mhm,
have some people who have been in this for like 12 years, right?
mhm,
It's a long time to be playing a game. The only
it is.
game I can, and I always refer back to this game, but World of Warcraft is the only one that's been going longer, but it's been a
Yep.
full release, constantly having updates. The One of the things that I I've been kind of asking myself about recently with Star Citizen is, shouldn't they have spent a little bit more time making things are stable as they were coming out with them? And here's why, right? Just because
Yeah.
that statement, yeah, it sounds good on the surface, but there's a little bit of a deeper reason. And I'm no coder, I'm no engineer. That's not my
Right.
thing. But just pure logic and common sense would dictate that if you have systems in the game that are very old and that some of the developers who worked on those systems are no longer around in
No
the
longer there.
company,
Yeah.
shouldn't that be a priority? And that's kind of like,
You would think.
yeah,
You would think that would be the case, right? And I've always called that exact situation CIG logic. Like their logic is so misplaced, it feels like sometimes, if that makes sense. Like the elevators, man, that should have been fixed a while ago. Like it should have been, and if the team's not there, then I mean, I'm glad they're making it a priority now, but shouldn't that have been done like a while ago? Like,
I agree. And what you call CIG logic, I call mismanagement. Um,
that could be very I can't talk. That could be it.
but
That
because I
could
mean,
definitely
like,
be it.
I look at it this way. When I think of the devs, I think of them as the people who are the foot soldiers, right? So
Hmm.
they're the ones designing this badass ADP my character's wearing right now. They're the ones designing the weapons I think are really cool. They're the ones making the ships I think are awesome. They're the ones making um, some of the features I think are really cool, like salvage, or even the mining system, which is relatively simple, but still looks and feels good.
Hmm.
Even all these years later after it's been implemented, salvage is more recent,
Hmm.
and so I kind of go back to asking myself like, well, the devs could do job a work that I find good. I like the animations. I really like the artwork, the concept art team, and
Oh yeah.
all those guys are some of the best I think in the business. So I try to give props where props are due, but I keep going back to like the problem is people will work on things as long as you allow them to with the resources that you give them, right? So
Hmm.
I typically tend to place blame on management because even if let's say the dev is the issue, well that's management's responsibility to replace that dev
Yeah.
or
Yep.
make them more know, uh, efficient.
Yeah.
Um,
Crack that whip a little harder.
so, do you think then that where was I going to go with this? Do you think then that CIG now, okay, here's what I don't remember. So do you would you agree that maybe why one of the reasons why those systems were not worked on is and was because they used the server meshing excuse, which I think is a valid excuse to a certain extent. And the idea behind that is they were waiting for server meshing to be this system that could help would overhaul essentially everything.
with overall stability and all that.
Yeah, because now systems have to
And
work between servers instead of just,
right,
yeah.
I I honestly think, I mean, and like, I mean, who am I to say this because I don't know what's going on internally in the company as far as that, but I do know that there are teams that started the coding and that are no longer there for whatever reason may be. And um it's just like it should have been rectified sooner. Like it should have been a problem sooner, or been taken care of sooner. Maybe, and that's a good point because they've probably been working on the server meshing. That's probably one of the biggest things that they've been going for. And now they have time to sit back and devote those resources to go back and put in better coding. Like for example, for the elevators, like rewrite the code. And I think, I mean, they're doing something here that hasn't been done in any game ever, anywhere, as far as like a space game or pretty much any game. And I think what they are doing is very ambitious. I believe it to be tedious, and I think, I mean, it just, I can only look forward to the future because I can't. I feel conflicted on commenting on, like, what I think they should do, or or like how it's going to happen. I can't really say, but I think it's going in a good direction right now, and I think that it probably should have been implemented a little bit sooner. But as I mean, we're getting there. So I guess that's the best I could put it down on paper.
But at the same time, you do understand like why some people are pretty frustrated with,
Oh yeah,
yeah, the experience. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
even you
oh yeah.
said that it was dark times back in December.
Yeah, the landing services mini game that I had to play almost made me quit. Almost made me quit. I That's the most frustrated I have ever been in Star Citizen, and like it was bad. It was really bad. Like I was so over it, and they came back and they fixed it, and my my temper got cooled down. The demon inside went back to sleep.
Fair. All right. Well, I'm not. My goal isn't necessarily to just rip on CIG because I agree with a lot
Right.
of what you say. You know, it is a really ambitious project. There have been instances of server meshing in other games, but nowhere
Hmm.
near the implementation that we're seeing
The
here in
scale.
this.
Yep.
Because it's one thing to have one map meshed into another with two different servers. Because
Hmm.
to a certain extent, World of Warcraft with all of its different areas, it's a different server. For a lot of
Hmm.
different zones. So that was always a thing, but it's the way that it's seamless. It's how you're actually going through it in game without it affecting you. Like that was, I mean, because now we can start talking about it in more of the past tense because they've kind of achieved, you know, that first. And I
Yeah.
have to say, it's working pretty well if I'm just taking server meshing into account on its own.
Yeah.
Now, and I think that's why I feel a little bit of justification in talking about, needing to work on these systems a little sooner because now the problem is that cool, server meshing's here and everything's broken.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like
And
4.0.1 was a lot of that.
and it kind of feels like that's how it is with CIG. They, like, it's one step forward for them, but then it's like 10 step backwards. And I can understand that from where a lot of players, feel that frustration. And I feel it. I feel it too. Like especially with the landing surfaces minigame. That just about killed me in the game. And I'm not trying to rip on CIG in any way. They're doing it. I mean, and it's an ambitious, very ambitious project. And like I said, it's something that's never been done as far as like in a game like of this scale. Like I mean, what other game can you go around, meet up with people, fly a ship, go on to fly to a planet or fly off that planet? You know what? There's nothing like that out
Well, I
there.
mean, you could talk about No Man's Sky because of the co-opness that eventually came in, and then the you could talk about
I
Elite
guess you could,
Dangerous
but
now allows you to land on planets now, but it's it's a
Like,
more
can you move
arcadey
around in your
game.
ship? Can you
No,
move
not
around your
really.
ship in Elite
Space
Dangerous?
Engineers would be the only one, I
Yeah.
think. But that's a very different game on a smaller scale. Um, but in terms of what Star Citizen's trying to do, there are some indie games now coming out trying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Spaceborne 2
Mm-hmm.
is a great example. That guy was
Yeah.
a solo dev and he made an incredible game. But still arcadey in terms of its ship combat and a lot of its
Right.
systems. But again, one guy, so I'm not going to hold it against him. There's another French team or Quebecois team now that's putting out a game called Quanga, I think is what it's called, and that's in very, very early stages, but same super ambitious, very open
Mm-hmm.
world, different star systems and stuff like that. So those games are
Yeah.
now starting to come out, but Star Citizen has definitely been leading the push and
Yeah.
the first one to try something like this. And I think
Yep.
it's inspired other developers and studios to be like, we can probably try doing something a little similar. Like,
What's that one? Another one that's coming out. Something Jump. Orbital and I were talking
oh,
about it the other day.
Jump Ship.
Jump Ship, and that looks fairly interesting. But I, it looks like something I would definitely try out. But as far as like Star Citizen, they're the pioneers of it
Mm-hmm.
all,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that are getting it done. Is it taking them a while? Yeah, it's taking them a while.
Yeah.
Realistically, hopeful thinking, I would like to see 1.0 within the next 5 years, but that could be very wishful.
See, I actually believe that we'll get to 1.0 before then.
You think so?
As thank you so much for the follow, Druid Lady. As pessimistic and as harsh and critical as I can be at times, I
Mm-hmm.
do try to give credit what's credit's due, and I still maintain that over the last 9 months we've seen a quicker development pace than we had seen for the year and a half before then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's definitely, I would say, becoming a bit more of an efficient machine.
Mm-hmm.
At CIG, I think the acquisition of Turbulent was huge for them, and Benoit is for me the star of the company right now.
Oh yeah,
Um, I think he's their rock
Jared's the
star.
face.
Jared's the face. Well,
Yep.
Chris Roberts is the face.
Chris
Uh,
Roberts is the face, but Jared's for the people.
Jared is the mouthpiece of
Yeah.
CIG, and
Yeah.
bring the beard back, Jared. And and then you have Benoit, who's kind of the man in the spotlight right now in terms of
Mm-hmm.
leading the charge. Because Rich Tyrer, it's it's gonna be hard to really measure his impact until we get to 1.0.
Oh yeah.
But I think right now the reason why Benoit is the rock star is because he just pulled off meshing. He pulled it off. It was rocky
Yeah.
starts. Yeah, 4.0 preview was tough. It was really tough after the first 2 weeks. 4.0.1 was not so good. 4.0.2 is better, but like you were saying, and I agree, there's still a bunch of little tiny things. But for me, my main thinking is usually if it doesn't stop me from completely playing and make me alt F4, alt third person, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
um, then I can live with a certain amount. But that's also because I've been
Yeah.
playing this for so long that I'm conditioned to a certain level of tomfoolery and shenanigans.
You know what I find fun, believe it or not, are the workarounds for the bugs
I love the
that the
workarounds.
community comes up with.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I know it sucks to do it, but I like having workarounds that the community has found out or you figure out and that kind of stuff. And that to me is like, I mean, we are the testers. We are the testers until they fix the workaround.
He
Exactly.
totally nailed it.
Until they
He
fix the
nailed it.
workaround.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until that gets fixed.
Yeah.
And then there's a new workaround you have to know. But that's one thing I've always loved about the Star Citizen community is the ability to come up with solutions to the problem. Like
Yep.
everyone's working towards that goal. And Star
Yep.
Citizen is for me one of the better gaming communities I've ever been a part of.
Oh, it's the best gaming community I've ever been a part of. I love the community behind Star Citizen.
A lot of good
All the
people.
streamers, all the people that are in game that don't stream. I mean, the the majority of them are pretty good people, I would say, as far as their like online presence or gaming presence.
Hmm.
I just feel like they are. I don't know what it's, I can't say for everybody what they're like behind closed doors, but for as part as like being a community in the game, it's a solid, like, good community, and I love that.
Yeah, I think um, the people that are drawn to this game are typically a bit more mature for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it's
I
refreshing,
would agree.
actually, is what it is. All right,
Mm-hmm.
let's move on to this next point. So, how do you like this new patch cadence? Like patches coming out basically once a month.
Once a month. My first thought when you said that was it's dangerous, but I want to like dangerous as far as breaking the game. But then again, uh, I'm happy about it because it's showing the progress that they're making progress in the game. I feel like things are picking up and moving faster, and not that it needs to, but I think it needs to speed up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I like it until that patch breaks something, and then so far we haven't had anything seriously game breaking except for the other day, actually, the anti cheat screwing up everybody's connection
Yeah.
to the game, but they put out a hot fix. I mean, they were on that pretty quick, which was I thought that was good. I was like, cool, okay. So we didn't get to play for a couple hours. I know that felt like an eternity, but we did get it, and we're back on track with where things should be. So I like the patch. Like it's supposed to be a patch a month, is what they said, right?
It's like 10 or 11 patches planned for the year, so we're going to have about a
Okay,
patch a month, yeah.
about a patch a month, right? And I think that's good. I think it's really good.
So I agree. So one of my old gripes used to be that I would get really, really annoyed because they'd drop a patch and be like, look, with this new wonderful patch. And then a week in, everything was broken and you couldn't do
Yeah,
anything. And then it was like, well, you guys got to wait for the next patch. Haha, sorry. And,
yeah,
they wouldn't do anything
yeah.
until the next patch. And that was super frustrating because that was really like, you guys don't respect us at this point. If
Mhm,
you're willing to put something out that's going to break so
mhm.
quickly and then drop it. And that's where I think a lot of people started to gain more frustration. But like I said, I try to be fair, and I think right now they've picked up the pace. They're a little, I'm not going to say more transparent with what they're doing and how they're doing it. I'm going to say they're a little less
Cryptic.
bold. No, they're less bold with their claims of what's going to happen.
Okay.
They've understood that pyro the next year, that will, back in
Okay.
2016, that was fine, but we only got it in 2024.
Yeah,
um
and things that should be fixed, right?
yeah. So, and
Like,
that's something they stopped doing too, and that's something that's been really nice to see in the hot fix or the patch notes, is they
mhm,
will now say, we think this is fixed, or we don't know, or this is not. They're
mhm.
maintaining things as not fixed. One of the
Yeah,
things
they're
that used
being
to
able.
drive people crazy, and myself included, is you would make a claim with the issue council for a problem you were having in game that was always related to money spent. If I've spent money and there's something wrong with access to what that money should give me access to, whether it be a ship or gear or whatever, then you're
Mhm.
gonna get an issue cancel because that's not respecting my purchase, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So those are the only, but the one time I did, it was a problem they couldn't fix right away. That ended up getting fixed two patches later. But essentially, my Connie would spawn with no elevators, no doors, no turrets, no weapons, no Merlin, no hangar, no
Did it
cargo bay, like empty.
did it come with the crossbar still in front of the
Yeah, that was always there.
windshield, right? That was always, oh,
That's
see,
still, that's
kind of.
part of the structure.
That's my biggest gripe about the Connie. Okay, off subject there a little bit.
So
I won't
like,
play it because of it.
but like, yeah. So I don't know. It's just sometimes, yeah. That so when it so yeah, and then I made an issue cancel, and they were like, yeah, okay, we hear your problem, and then they marked it as resolved. That drove so many people crazy
Oh
because
yeah,
it clearly
I could
wasn't
imagine.
resolved. you're not respecting what we're saying. It's kind of like a yeah, go away. And that was very frustrating for a lot. Now it's funny that Classical brings this up because now we're going to talk about 4.1 a little bit and the loot system.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about loot system tier 0. Let's not talk about tier 1 and 2 yet. Let's just talk about tier 0. So I know you said you read the
I'm on a brief description of what it is. Like I haven't like I know it's something where you if you die, you respawn with your gear,
basically
essentially.
tier
Okay.
0 is
So
you respawn with your gear.
my biggest thing to that, Chris Roberts has always said, like expect there to always be danger like lurking around a corner. You know, there's always that aspect of danger. And with the tier 0, where's the risk? Where's the risk in going out and doing this stuff? Like oh, I'll just respawn with my gun on my ship that's parked right here and come back and kill you cuz I mean, is that how it works?
So no, the way it works, to my understanding, and I reacted to it on stream, and then I watched a few other streamers and YouTubers content on it, and so I think the general understanding for tier 0 is when you die, your armor, your weapon will be unlootable. So anything
Okay,
you have
unlootable.
equipped will be unlootable. Anything in your backpack that wasn't originally equipped or that wasn't in your hands when you died will be lootable. So if you found weapons while you were in a outpost and they're in your
Mhm.
backpack, the player who killed you or who finds your body should still be able to interact and loot
Loot
those items.
loot the backpack. Or loot the backpack or not loot the backpack.
So and this is the point I made on Thursday, and Classical is kind of reiterating it right now. The For me that is purely financially driven. It's not a
Mhm.
bad thing though. I do want to say this again. It's not a bad thing to be able to recuperate your gear in the game. I think that's a good thing. What
Mhm.
I think is annoying a lot of people is not is a little bit of loss of the full loot aspect of the game, which is not completely full loot. And even though it's been getting a lot better, especially since 4.0,
Mhm.
it's not fully there yet. There's still a lot of things I
Right.
keep wanting to grab and I just can't interact with. But that being said, it's a problem. It's a solution to the problem that they needed to solve if they were truly going to find, or, monetize armor and weapon sales.
Yeah.
For me, there was never any reason to go buy any weapons or armor until you had the possibility of getting back what you paid for. If it's something you buy in the game at a
Exactly.
store with in-game currency, I do not
Yeah.
care if I lose it. It's
Yeah.
normal,
I
right?
I completely agree to that.
And I think a lot of people applied too much Tarkov logic to it. And the problem with that is Tarkov's an extraction shooter. It's not a
Mhm.
persisting MMO.
Right.
And even though that is one of the best parts of Tarkov, I'm not gonna lie. And even though I think that the very first reward, besides the kill in a PvP 1-on-1 or just a PvP fight overall, is being able to claim their gear, take their stuff for you as your trophy, essentially, right? Your reward.
So and I don't mean to overstep here in this, but I'm kind of just reading through that tier 0 implementation, and
Mm-hmm.
it says items such as magazines, med pens that you have equipped can still be looted from your corpse. However, you will also respawn with these items
Yep.
as duplication. What is that?
They're
Concerns
not worried
or
about that
these
stuff
types.
being duped.
Yeah.
Duped.
Right. So what stops somebody from putting like key cards on their person
Nah,
on
there would be
their like
nothing.
belt?
So that's something that a lot of people brought up on Thursday, and I agree entirely with it. You you will get some people who will think of that, and that's probably going to be the best way. So
Mm-hmm.
you can equip key cards to your belt. So Tiger claws and key cards can go on your belt. Fuses can go on your chest, and along with grenades and flares, or the
Okay.
quick flares, quick pros, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Uh, I haven't. I mean, I've never been crazy enough to try it with a red key card or a blue key card in the game yet, or a crypt card, or last stand, whatever.
Right.
I haven't been that insane, but I'm assuming it would work like a tiger claw. Now, maybe
I
that'll
would assume the
be
same thing.
something I'll do for science later, but it's something that players will try to. I don't like using the word exploit, because if it's something that's available
Hmm.
to you in the game, it's just a mechanic to use. Um, I think CIG will probably get a little bit of flack when it first come out, because there's gonna need some tweaking. I don't think it's a bad idea overall for people to get their paid armor back. I think that's kind of the minimum, and it's insane actually to go back and think that that hasn't been a thing up till now.
And I agree with that. Like paid items that you get, whether it be, I mean, because it works with ships. You lose your ship. Hey, your skin's still on your ship. Like, if you got paid armor, it should, and you die, and I would say, I don't know. I'm not a dev or anything. Maybe put a timer on it. If you don't go for your body back in a certain amount of time, it will pop back into your inventory. I think that would be an appropriate move, but that's for paid items. You're paying money for that item. And I know so many people that don't run around in subscriber gear due to the fact that they just might die from a bug,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
I mean, yeah. Let's forget
I'm like,
players for a
I know
second.
I've got fancy sets in my inventory that I don't run around because, like, I don't want to lose this.
Try if you can. I mean, you first have to beat the hab door. Then you have to beat the first elevator. Then you have to beat the hallway to the ASOP terminals. Then you have to beat the ASOP terminal. Then beat the next elevator, and then beat exiting your hangar. And
All these mini bosses.
yeah, all these mini bosses that are just insane. It's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that takes you an hour.
Yeah. Exactly. And Wright brings up a good point. You can't loot paint off a ship.
No, so okay, but then that brings
That'd
us
be
into
pretty cool if you
talking.
could, though.
All right, I mean, so tier 0 though. What are your before we because that's more tier 1, tier 2 stuff. But tier 0, what do you think so far of it? Like, I mean, because I think yeah, everyone can agree if you pay for something in the store, at least with real monies, there should be no question as to
You
whether you
should
get it back. Yeah.
You should get it back. You should get it back. I think, and if that's what tier 0 is, then I am for it. Um, I think it's I don't know. I'll just have to, honestly, I'll have to see how it plays out when I play it, because I can't really speak on it till I actually experience, if that makes sense. Like, I have to have a hands-on experience with it. But from what it sounds like, I think it could be a good thing.
Well, since you just subbed again and PTU's out.
Yeah, I know. I just subbed that when we began here today. So, PTU, here I come.
So we'll be able to try that out. So I think that's a good thing, and I think it'll be funky and it'll be annoying not to be able to loot anyone you potentially kill in PvP. I
Hmm.
completely
Hmm.
agree with everybody there. But
Yeah.
then that brings us into the next point, which Riot and Orbital were talking about, which is basically, Riot brings up the
Crafting of
point of you
blueprints.
can't loot a person's paint off a ship, and Orbital is talking about crafting. So those are already talked about in tier 1 and tier 2. But here's the biggest
Hmm.
problem, right? They're going to introduce bricking items that you lose.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I had a pretty visceral immediate reaction to it on stream. Having taken some time to think about it, I think the exact same thing. It's dumb. Um,
Hmm.
it's I don't like that idea at all. It's purely adding in. I'll be nice and call it gameplay just for the sake of keeping you busy. You don't need to brick someone's item in order to get them to want to craft something. I think
Right.
crafting is going to be a huge thing in this game, and I love the
Oh,
idea of being
absolutely.
able to craft stuff. I love crafting. I love base building. All that stuff sounds fantastic to me.
Yeah.
I do not think you need to brick player items, because here's the thing: is at first I was a little
I
confused, and I
don't.
was like,
I
wait,
don't either.
do they mean ships or gear and ships? And so, because when I think about it for a ship, I think that can make sense, and that has a certain amount of logic to it, and you can call it realism or whatever you want. Of like, if somebody steals your ship, you should be able to say, "Yo, that shit was stolen." Boom, dead man switch,
Mm-hmm.
and uh the person has to go through extra steps. Maybe they use the SRV to tow it. It creates game loops that are actually kind of interesting to the game, I find, where because
I
you're
agree.
utilizing things that are in the game already. It's not forcing you to go recraft something or craft a key to unlock someone's ship, whatever. Like, even that would be acceptable, actually, when I think about it. But they're gonna basically make it so there's that switch, that kill switch, so the ship doesn't work anymore. You'll be able to then claim its chassis or something like that through a blueprint, and then from there you'll be able to remake the ship. Which I'm up, even up till then, I don't think that's great, because if I just jacked a guy's ship, I don't expect to have to take it to a chop shop to be able to use it again. But anyways, that's fine. I can
Hey,
still live
I'd
with
be
that
running a
loop.
chop shop. I'd
uh,
run it.
and but that's classical makes a really good point about comms, and what kind of signal, what kind of relays are going to be on these things. Anyways, if somebody jacks
Mm-hmm.
your ship in pyro and there are no comms or anything there because there's no oversight and law, well, how
Lawlessness.
are they gonna
Yeah,
key the ship? Now, I'm sure that's probably, for me, I don't think that's going to be the biggest problem. For me, the biggest problem is, I can understand it with ships, but I just want to, one thing about the paints though, because they're going to make it so that you can't keep the player's paints. For me, that's entirely a monetary decision. That's purely because we
hmm,
want you to go buy that paint because you
yeah,
can't get
yeah,
it in
yeah.
game. Now,
Hmm.
so there's that. And then when it comes to bricking armor and gear, just think about that for a second. You're in a combat, you kill a player, you need to take his weapon because yours out of ammo. You pick it
Hmm.
up, you go to shoot, but
Can't use it.
he's spawned and he's bricked it, and you're screwed. I don't
Yeah,
like that in any way, shape, or form, because then that's just adding
I
the
agree.
tedious extra steps of, now you've got to keep this thing in your inventory that's essentially useless until you take it back to your crafting
Take
station
it
and
back.
do
Yeah,
whatever you
and
need
dismantle it,
to.
sell it, or restore it is what they're saying. They're looting a bricked item. So once
And
an item is looted, you will give the option to sell it, dismantle it, or for crafting materials, or restore it with the potential cost of crafting materials and credits. So, but you can't do anything right then and there with it.
no, which is, but
And
then
that's
Attack Cat brings up the point of, we don't know how long it'll take to brick it. For now, the way I read that was, it's something that a player will be able to do once they respawn. Now, if their
right.
body's incapped for an hour and a half because they decided to walk away and not backspace, and nobody decided to put them out of their misery, then yeah, okay, you could have a certain window of time there. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that breaking will probably be a quicker action, because simply because on CIG's part, they're going to want to force that game loop a little quicker than you having to sit on 5 or 10 items, weapons, armors that you're waiting for somebody to brick so that you can then finally craft over to being yours. Um, I think, but I like the point Attack Cat makes too, of like, one of the reasons for stealing somebody's ship, it should be the paint that's on it,
Mm-hmm.
or the weapons that it has on it,
The
or the
weapons. Yeah, the
components.
weapons.
Like,
Yeah, components, weapons. That's one reason. Or the cargo.
the
I mean,
only cutties I've ever wanted to truly steal in game are the executive paint cutties, the white and gold with the black,
yeah,
because they look so badass. You're like, yeah, I can have a freaking gold cutty. Why not?
yeah,
But that. But then again, for me, that's a financial reason as to why CIG
right.
won't let that happen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
I'm the. I think as far as like, okay, say if they do make it to where you loot somebody's paint, like, okay, that person spent like real dollars for whatever paint. Um, and then you see some dude that just went around killing somebody and stole their paint. I'd probably be pissed as a person who spent the money on the paint.
yeah, I get that.
But if you make it like expensive to craft that paint, like I mean expensive to craft it, I think that's fair. I think it's completely fair because, not everybody has money, but they do have time to get into that game and, get those materials and resources, however expensive it may be.
I 100%
Um,
agree with that. I think that
and
should
I think it's
be,
okay.
yeah.
I think it should be expensive.
It's
Um,
like either you're willing to put in, the
the hours
time, or,
or the money.
and I think everything that's in the store should always be available in a game for whatever game we're
Hmm.
talking about. I think the
Hmm.
second you start locking stuff behind a paywall, you're getting into very dangerous territory, and you're immediately splitting up your player base. One of the
Hmm.
craziest phenomenons that I ever heard about in gaming, which to me made no sense at first, and then when I realized why it made sense, was people were getting bullied in Fortnite over not having skins because it was like a sign of
Oh
being
yeah.
poor. And it's just like,
Yeah.
that's fucking insane.
Yep.
That's pretty basic societal interaction. But, that
Kids
same
being kids.
yeah, that same
Yeah.
thing, that same logic applies almost everywhere. If you know in Star Citizen that to have the monocle, you have to be concierge, and so you have to drop a certain amount, well, you're immediately
Hmm.
going to make certain assumptions, depending on your background, on the person wearing that. And you don't want to create that split within the game. Like, I think that you're 100% right. It should be something that's craftable or findable, but just with really rare with really rare drop rates, or with the ability to craft it, but at a price. Like, you got to
Yeah.
spend time getting the materials, or maybe one specific material is locked behind a contract. It's hard to complete. Something that's going to
Yeah.
engage you with the
Yeah. Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
because you want people spending money on your game, sure, but before anything else, you want people playing it, because
Hmm.
people playing it brings in other people playing it. And
Exactly.
and then good. And one of the things I've brought up recently on stream too is, like, it's up until, I'm gonna actually say, up until this last week or two, it was really hard to say positive things about Star Citizen for me, because it was in just a sad state. And when your desire to stop playing a game
Oof.
goes away, it's hard to get other
It's it's
people.
it's heartbreaking. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I used to love that game, but I remember why I don't play it. And it's like, yeah, I completely understand that. Like 100% understand that. And I feel like, but this rolls back to what we were talking about earlier. I see it progressing a little faster, which is like hopeful, which
Yeah.
is hopeful. And I mean, it's good, but like I said, CIG, it's one step forward, 10 step backwards. Like, you fix one thing and 10 other things break. And that's very frustrating. It is frustrating.
So I don't know. Like, for me, tier 1 and tier 2, I just don't see the point. I don't really
Yeah.
agree with it. I think I can understand and get behind it for ships, but I can't for
Hmm.
armor. And I mean, this is a really stupid,
I
silly
agree.
situation. You loot somebody's Morozov armor, right? It's a really sexy Morozov. It's a scorched Morozov, right? So it's even
Right.
sexier, right? And you're running around looting, and all of a sudden you freeze up and you can't move because they just bricked the armor. What
Hmm.
does that do in game? Does that make your character just stay stuck in a T pose? Does that,
Yeah. The
all of a
ultimate
sudden
T-pose right there.
the armor, like, ejects itself off of your body? Or does it seize up and, like, you're stuck in
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
like
Like,
Iron Man stuck
or
in his suit, like,
does it just straight up disappear off your body?
or yeah, and go
Like,
into your inventory, or like go on the
yeah,
floor,
how
like,
would that work out?
right? So
How would that work
there's
out?
there's a lot of questions around, um, and yeah, it's I don't know. I think they have a lot of stuff to figure out. I really hope I really hope the community says no to T1 and T2. I hope, but guys, everybody watching, please, if you have a reason you think T1 and T2 are good, please don't hesitate to share here. I would love to debate it, because honestly, I'm having a really hard time finding positives to it. And I'm not trying to, you know, shoot down anyone's potential opinion before
You know,
they share it, but I really want to know if anyone thinks that's truly positive. I like
the way they've done it in other MMOs or survival games, even,
mhm.
and I can't name one off the top of my head because I can't remember what game it was that I was playing. You would, if you died in a game, okay, your backpack or your body would be there. But if you died again, That's it. You lost it. No, actually, it wasn't a. I know what it was. It's the implement like of ruins in Elden Ring. Like you have that one shot to get back your gear, and if you didn't get it back, if you died between that time of getting your ruins back, they were gone forever. And I think maybe something like that would be a little more understandable as far as like getting your gear back. Like if you die on your way getting back to gear, then yeah, it's gone, and you can't loot it again. And I don't know. That's just my thought on it. But yeah, I could see what you're saying about the T1 and T2.
So TechCat brings up a point that I actually kind of had forgotten about. I got so focused on the bricking thing.
Hmm.
I think sub gear and unique items. I have zero problem with paying money in game, not real life money, but
Yeah.
just to be precise, specific, um, for retrieving gear to either help the economy or to give the game a cue to potentially erase a set of gear that may be just laying around nowhere that's no one's probably ever going to find, because my body died in some random crevasse in some canyon on Daymar because I was low flying 200 kilometers away from the nearest outpost or whatever.
Hmm.
Like I think having paying and even paying a lot of in-game money to get certain gears back, I have zero problem with. It was a
Right.
mechanic that I really liked from Tarkov. Um, I did. That happens a lot. Um, like it's an idea that I think kind of comes from Tarkov that they did really well, which is you can insure your items, and if nobody picks them up in game, you get them back essentially.
Hmm.
That was a great idea, and I think though for some stuff spent with money, there has to be 100% retrieval rate. You cannot
100%
lose.
retrieval rate. I
But
agree.
for stuff that you found in game or you bought in game,
Yeah.
I have zero problem with losing it. Talking about the item
Hmm.
recovery, a set of ships that you bought with real money, I don't think this is a good move. The issue with money spent on weapons and armor are mute. Ships gear fear is a real thing and should be in the game. Thanks, fathers. So yeah, I mean, I kind of hear what you're saying, and I agree. Like for ships, anything spent with real life money should always be should come back. Even gear, even weapons, even ships. Like especially gear and weapons, because that's for me is a really expensive buy. You're spending $10 to $20 on a set of gear and a weapon. That's a
Yeah.
lot of money
It should be
for something
instantly
that costs a
given back.
100,000 credits at most for the entire set in game.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like ammo and everything included. So for me, the most expensive item you can buy with real money in Star Citizen is an armor set and a weapon. I think then comparatively, when you look at ships and stuff like that, they're not as bad. Now some ships are ridiculous, like the Idris and all that stuff. That's insanity. But and I think that's an entirely different conversation. But it's I think I think you should be everybody should be okay with losing a certain amount of gear that you bought or found in game. Anything you paid for, it shouldn't even be a question. It's a no brainer. You get
Right.
that back. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And like, say you lose your paid for gear by real money, paid for gear, like due to a bug, make a dead man switch on that to where if it's sitting there for a certain amount of time, despawn it
Yeah.
and put it back into your inventory.
I mean, we all love the idea of persistence, but we all also understand that
I
it
agree.
slowly kills the game.
It does.
Like,
And put a dead man switch on it. Like like if you fall in like a crack at a bunker, I don't know anybody that's done that before.
I've done
Uh,
it.
or through the elevator that doesn't have the back gate, and
Yep.
you just randomly get pushed down
Yep.
that deep dark hole. Yeah, I've never been there before. But make a dead man switch on it. And if it's there for a certain amount of time, despawn it. Like I think that's perfect. I love the idea of like, okay, it's a persistent universe. You could put things there. And I remember them talking about this years ago. Like they were saying, if you put something somewhere in the verse, you can come back years later and it'll be there. And I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean, it
I
sounds
don't
cool
know.
on paper and in theory.
On paper, it sounds cool.
I don't know. And the implementation sometimes has been dope. But see, the
Yeah.
implementation doesn't matter until you have players locked to shards and there's like 10,000 people. Like you're locked to a
Mm-hmm.
WoW server, right? You're locked
Mm-hmm.
to a specific region sometimes in other MMOs, and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think the persistence matters as much until that's a real thing, because
Yeah.
you'll never find that server you were on 2 years before after
Right. Right.
10, 12 patches and 50 server restarts, you know what I mean? So
I left this double dog glizzy here for 5 years. Time to eat it.
like Fathers makes a good point with the crafting. Like I think the crafting should be maybe more the solution. And if you've bought the item, not only do you have the blueprint, but it's maybe not a free craft, but a very cheap craft.
I think if you bought the item with real money, I think it should be a free craft. I'm just saying that because that's real dollars we're talking about. Now if it's bought maybe with in-game money, um, I mean that's just that, or very maybe not free, but very very cheap to craft if it's bought with real money.
I agree.
Um, I would lean
Because
so more on the free end because you're spending real dollars to have that item, and once you have it, you should have it. It's just like any skin in any MMO, pretty much. Like, hey, I bought this. Okay, now I have it, and it's always in my inventory. I don't like I play Guild Wars too. I don't have to go craft something that I bought with real money to look a certain way. Like if I die or whatever.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, either free craft or very very extremely cheap. But in-game items maybe you probably make it a little more expensive to craft said item, or if it's looted to make it more expensive. But we'll
I
see how it
just
goes.
I just think that
We'll
anything you
see how it
buy
goes.
should just be immediately returned, or I don't mind going through the
I agree.
crafting route at all, but it should be nearly
Yeah,
free or free.
yeah,
And I
I
think
agree.
again, going back to the tier 0, this is absolutely a stopgap until they have it fully fleshed out and crafting's in game.
Right.
And then, I think there should still always be some kind of a retrieval service, for certain items, maybe. And I think that should really be mainly around what you've bought with real money. And then there should
Mm-hmm.
be maybe a separate service for everything that you found in game, bought in game, crafted in game. And I think certain items shouldn't be insurable that were crafted in game, bought in game, or
Right.
found in game,
Right.
because it creates a little bit more rarity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think certain things should always just be findable. Certain things should be just craftable,
Yep.
because even though not everybody's going to want to craft, not everybody's going to want to be an explorer, it does help force the interaction of, I need to trade with somebody to get this item. So now
Yes.
you're playing into the MMO
Or join
aspect.
an org, and there's a somebody's a crafter, or somebody goes out and gets the materials, whatever it does. I mean, everybody's going to be the crafter, but this person does that thing, and you could work towards your org's goals. And I kind of agree with that. Like, I absolutely agree with that. um I mean, can you play Star Citizen alone? Yeah, I know people that do. But
I
is
love
it better
playing
with
solo.
friends?
Yes.
Hell yeah, it's I think it's better with friends. I would not. Okay, and that kind of brings up my other point. Am I excited for Squadron 42? Yeah. Am I going to play it? No, because it's single player. I'm not into single player games. I like the community aspect of playing online multiplayer games. Will I watch people that play it? Hell yeah. I will watch it, but I will be bored out of my mind playing it alone.
It I think it's playable solo. I enjoy playing it solo. There are times when I would prefer to be solo, but the game
Mhm.
is made to be played with others and gets exponentially better when you have a
Yeah.
good group, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, so and I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit into the events, because I want to talk about supply or die. I think it's
Mhm.
really important that we finally got to a point where we're getting rewards in game for things that we're going to do.
Can we talk about Supply or Die?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it, because I mean,
Yeah.
getting into supply or die, I like, since, what is it, Overdrive, that we've now been getting rewards in game, armors, weapons,
Mhm.
paints, all that stuff. that's something, now that it's in there, you're kind of like, how the hell did we live without this? And
Mm-hmm.
why, this is kind of like the basics of most game. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, it's one of those insane thoughts to be like, wait, Star Citizen hasn't had this whole time? You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways, there's a few of those. And yeah, so I think that the events are a good thing. I don't necessarily like the whole FOMO aspect they're trying to play on of, if you don't do it now, you'll never do it again. It's like, yeah, but I can't play your game right now, so what do you mean? It's like,
I, I'm not going to get the paints for the frontier fighters for the ships because the Idris mission was bugged on me, and I sent them it was a very nice, well read letter saying asking them if there was anything they never got back to me about it.
yeah, actually, what's really funny? One of the only reasons I ever had to play PTU, which Attack Cat just reminded me with the you have a reason to use your earn armors. I only use those armors in PTU because you were gonna get them back and not lose them.
Mm-hmm.
There was probably enough PTU update the next day, which, by the way, is something that I love that they're doing in PTU. Just again, giving credit where credit's due. I love PTU patches every day or every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's one PTU patch for a week, I definitely have zero desire to play that
Yeah.
patch for a week. You know what I mean? So little patches every day, every other day, going to waves quicker and quicker. I still hate the wave system. I think it's completely stupid, and I think you should be trying
Yeah.
to load up as many players always as possible to break as much as possible, because that's the point of PTU. But yeah, again, credit where
Break it,
credit's
guys.
due. I think that's nice. And again, it starts relieving some of the frustration I've had of, we dropped a patch and you're stuck with it for 2 months. All right, everybody, we'll talk later. Like, guys, that's not fair.
We're
Stop doing
going
that.
on vacation for Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was
Well, look, I
I
mean, everybody has the right to take a vacation. All right,
I agree. I
I'm not
agree.
gonna
And
argue
at
that.
least they did leave a skeleton crew there. Um, so I mean that's good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
no, if it wasn't for a couple of those guys, let's be honest, we wouldn't be
Yeah.
playing for 2 weeks, at least 3 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe
Oh
more.
yeah. Yeah.
But so those guys, those devs who held the line, those guys
Yeah.
who held the line for us, they
Thank you.
deserve a
Thank
giant
you.
pat on the back. They deserve a beer, a whiskey, a bottle of champagne, whatever you want to give them. A bonus, maybe more money. CIG.
I'm sure they got a good bonus
I
from that.
probably no, I don't. They probably got nothing. They probably got a really nice coffee from their coffee machine place bar.
Wait, do their coffee
Dude,
machines
I
work
still
there?
refuse
'Cause I
to
know they don't
watch.
work in game.
Dude, I still refuse to watch all videos about the Manchester offices because I know I'm just gonna get angry. But it's fine. We're moving on. We're gonna move on.
Pizza party?
All right. So
We don't
okay.
even
So
have pizza in the game yet.
so supply or die. We have hot dogs. We have double dogs. That's all we need.
We got double glazies, and I'm okay with that.
Now we just need chili cheese double dogs, and then we'll be good. But
Ooh, with onions.
or whatever you want to throw in them. But
Hell yeah.
so no, supply or die. Have you spent a lot of time doing it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved
Ha-
it. I loved Supply or Die.
what were you running mainly? Hey, what's up,
So
Chris Raba?
the boys and I, we didn't even go to Pyro. I mean, recently
Thank
we
you
did,
so much.
but we did everything in Stanton. We didn't camp terminals too much. We would just, see if we could get the materials when we could get them, and it was amazing. We got it done fairly quick. I loved it. Um, do I see some of the bugs that are like, I mean, you got the people that are camping the terminals now, and now they're saying that the all materials are server wide and they're all linked together, and they up the price on certain materials as well. We got lucky when we did it because I mean we were able to buy the corundum and copper, and that's the majority of what we finished the supplier die with
Yeah.
was the copper and corundum, and we did it. And like right now, I'm sitting on 1,000 SU of corundum, but zero copper. Can't get copper anymore.
Yo, we should talk
Um,
trade later. But
yeah, hey, I'm cool. I'm cool with that. Yeah, let's do that.
because I
Yeah.
think everybody kind of ended up in that position of okay. So,
Hmm.
I think with supply or die, you have to differentiate the first 3-4 days, and with the way it's
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So, um, I hate waiting in line in real life. I will leave. If I see a
Right.
line that's too long, I will just straight up just turn around and leave. Even if it's for work, I'll like just be like, nah, sorry, it's not for me, and
Yeah.
it's terrible. But
Yeah.
that's why I became the boss, so I can send other people to stand in line. But anyways,
There
um,
you go.
so but it was purely just because I hate standing in line. No, I'm kidding.
Hmm.
But no, the other thing is you don't want I don't want to go stand in line in the game. I don't understand. I understand that I can deal with the hanger queue
Hmm.
because that
Oh,
gives
that
us instant
sucks.
hangers, and as much as sometimes that can be frustrating,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I can live with that one.
But
However,
standing in line for
for
materials
commodities,
at it
oh
for
man.
commodities. Yeah.
Oh man. So the only
Yeah.
other time I had ever experienced that was at the very beginning of 4.0 preview, or was it still 4.0 in PTU? Was there everybody was spawning at the stations in Pyro, and you would have lines of 10 people buying ammo and weapons. It was
I
hilarious.
remember that.
It
I
was
remember that.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, as
Yeah.
something you see once in a while, I have a good laugh. If it's something you
Yeah.
see every day, or you every time you go to try to do that mission, that's just frustrating. You know what I mean? Like that's just
I
frustrating.
agree.
So,
And you have people sitting there camping the terminals
mhm.
like constantly. I mean, I'm not kidding you when I say that Orbital and I we got lucky a few times with getting the materials. Because you would see it pop up and then instantly it was gone before you could click a button.
Yeah. So then
And
it got even better. Did you hear about this? There were people going around in groups who had figured out that if they got one buddy in front of a terminal, the rest of them could go mess with the others and get them off the terminals, or be in between the terminals and them so they couldn't see the screen.
right.
I
Yep.
walked into at one point, this guy was picking up boxes and throwing it at people so that it would knock them off the screen, but
Oh
they'd still
wow.
be attached to it. It was, I mean, some people got creative, props to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Chris Robert, right before they changed the percentage of stocking, or replenishment for stock in the stations, whether it be Magnus or wherever you were, Seraphim by Genie or Ruin or Checkmate, you there used to be quite a bit. Like there used to be every time it restocked, like there was at least 800 copper, 800 corundum, or sometimes it was like 400. So, but at least every time I restock, one person could get enough to, at least complete one contract essentially.
Mm-hmm.
10, I think,
Mm-hmm.
spawned a bit more, but that's was kind of normal because it only did spawn in one place. So
Right.
yeah, now, and what Bender's talking about, and Chris, is now the smartest way to do it is to go get it yourself. Go mining,
Yeah.
go salvaging, go run bounties and take their cargo. Because I've been finding copper and corundum on pretty much every bounty I do, just in HRTs. Now there's very little, 2 to 4 SCU, but once you get through the grind of finally getting through to VHRTs and ERTs, there's going to be a lot more. Yeah, or you could be a pirate and just steal it from other players.
We
Um,
tried that the other day.
I'm a terrible pirate. I suck at it.
Well, so I was running the Mantis
Mm-hmm.
on one of the routes, and I was able to pull a few ships out when I was by myself with the quantum snaring.
Nice.
And then once I got the group together, I could not get a single ship to pop out of quantum.
Interesting.
I don't know. It was weird.
I
Like
got
we
pulled out once, but I was in the Cuddy Red, so they let me go because they're like, "Oh, this guy's got nothing."
yeah, it's
It's
Cuddy
like-
Red, right? Little did they know you had that thing packed.
That's just it
I've
was
seen. Who was it? It was who was it? It was Limbo. He packed his Cuddy Red full of Detrine.
really
When yeah, in the when yeah, when that first dropped, he was
nice.
in the PTU and he was stacking. I was like, I can't watch this. I cannot watch this. I love you, man. I can't watch this. This thing's gonna explode.
I just discovered in Limbo. He rated me the other day. It was very sweet. He's cool. I've gone to hang out on his stream a few times now.
Yeah.
He's so yeah. I mean, I've always been a terrible pilot, but I've only was interdicted once. And I mean, I guess I was lucky. I was just in the Cuddy Red. I mean, I would probably disguise the Cuddy Black as a red and then stuff that with cargo, just out of just because
Mm-hmm.
it's made for it. But
Yeah,
anyways, no, I thought supplier die was a great idea. I think they
I like it.
just hadn't thought everything through in those first 4 days. Even though that was the best time to make money, it was a
Well,
little
let's see.
insane. It was a
Orbital,
little
how long?
insane.
How long do you think it was? And I'm gonna ask Orbital because he that's like that's my dude right there. Like we ran that whole thing together. How long do you think it took us to complete the supplier die? I mean, it was definitely before
To get all the
they.
2,800 points,
Yeah, we got it. We got it done fairly quick. I want to say it was maybe like less than a week. I want to say maybe
I got
5 or 6
mine done in
days.
like 2.5 days, 3 days.
Yeah, it was fair. It feels like 5 or 6 days, but I think that's just because I was saving the content for stream,
Gotcha.
pretty much. Yeah, so
Nice.
it was within 2 or 3 days. Okay, it maybe it felt longer to me.
I mean,
Um,
it's a lot of getting boxes, moving boxes, loading and
yeah,
unloading
maybe that's
boxes.
what it was.
So it can feel a little long, which is, I wish, see, I liked the idea of going after the Deditrine. I just could never get a
Hmm.
group big enough to do it.
Right,
And then, even if you did, you had to pray that the elevators worked, which they never did.
right.
99% of the
Oh,
time, they're broken.
I know Orbital's got a lot of material sitting in elevators that are not working, like on planet side, and that's really a shame.
Damn. Yeah, me
Like
too.
what that should be. And
Yeah.
I was hearing that people were borking the elevators on purpose,
Yeah,
and I
that's
think
even
it's
more.
absolutely. I don't know how it's done. I don't want to know how it's done, but I think it's absolutely garbage of other players to do that.
That's terrible. No,
I
it's
think it's
bad.
garbage. I think that it's worse
It's
than being a murder hobo.
I mean, I can get along with a murder hobo. I can't get along with someone who's doing
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Like,
I agree. I agree 100%. Not ban them, maybe suspend them though. Suspend their accounts
well,
for
look,
a
I
little bit.
think, one of the I think that'll be a real conversation when we get to 1.0. I think
Hmm.
it's hard to ban people in an alpha because it's not the finished product. There are things
Hmm.
broken that CIG know are broken that they're not fixing right this second, that
Hmm.
can lead to duping or an exploit. The exploits show up, they're not necessarily aware of it. It's the players that make them aware. There's a lot of different factors where, like, in an alpha, it's just so hard to, especially, so, like, imagine you ban somebody for doing an exploit that he kind of took advantage of, but he maybe wasn't 100% aware of
Right.
the implications of what he was doing, whatever. But the guy spent 50 grand in the game. Are you gonna ban him?
Yeah, no, you really can't. And I know. Okay, so I watch a lot of uh, pirate software, and when he talks about how they would do ban waves and how they
Yeah.
would talk about the people that were doing the, you have a scale that goes up. Like, okay, this person did it this many times, and okay, you're on a watch list now. And if this person does it so many more times, you move further up on this curved scale
Mm-hmm.
until it's just perma ban, right?
I like that. And yeah, the
And
way pirate software talks about it, it makes a lot of sense.
it does, it really does. And I think hey, okay, like if you're caught duping, okay, you're on a watch list or whatever. But how are you going to do that in an alpha? That's what I'm saying. Because we are testing the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, are these players turning in these reports to them? No, because the turn-in system is kind of trash.
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean, you can do it, and I would say the majority of players don't turn in that kind of stuff. I would say the majority of it. Me being one of them, I don't turn in that kind of stuff.
I've done it a couple
Um,
times. If somebody shares a link for an issue I know, like Aristavo has shared
mhm.
links, or Bigfoot has been like, "Can you go support this link? Like, it's an issue, like blah blah." And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure. Send me the link. I'll go there. No problem." Um, going in myself, I've done it a couple times, and when you start to realize that it's not really going anywhere, yeah, it's a little frustrating. Now, the
Oh
problem
yeah.
is, it should be a lot easier. We should be able to just report this in game.
Yeah, there
That
should.
kind of stuff.
Oh, I would love that.
That would be
I would love
nice.
an in-game bug report. You they would get flooded,
Oh hell yeah!
though.
The
They would
first
get
two
flooded.
months would the system would it would break
Oh,
everything.
Oh,
It would
yeah.
probably break everything.
It cannot be sent. Email is over is full.
Like, yeah, you get like an error
Yeah.
message.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
that's a good
Cannot be
point.
sent.
But I think potentially suspensions until the next patch. That especially if the patch cadence is every month, I think that's pretty
Well, depending on the
justified.
severity,
Yeah, it depends on the
depending on the
severity.
severity of it, I mean, I think suspension should be a good idea. I think it would keep people in check from like borking
So
elevators.
legally, the only people you can truly go after, um, for let's call it exploiting, are people who sell AUEC on online for real
Mm-hmm.
money. That's
Mm-hmm.
essentially trademark copyright infringement because you're
Mm-hmm.
selling something you don't own the rights to.
Right.
Um, that's a real issue. And Pirate
RMT.
Software talks about that a lot with regards to World of Warcraft, and
Yeah.
it's a really interesting
Well,
conversation.
and look how World of Warcraft handled it.
Terribly.
No, they did a great job. They started selling their own gold.
Oh yeah, well, I still maintain terribly, but yes, not in because they just found it. They're like, well, we're not gonna let those guys make all the money off of it. We'll make some money off of it ourselves. And
That
I mean, even thank you very much, Chris. It was a pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you so much for your follow. Um, but it's yeah, that's a real problem. But then again, hey, kudos to them. Like you said, they monetized it. That was smart. I still think it's just terrible. I hate seeing people getting monetized for everything. But yes, it's a smart move. It's better for
hmm
them to be doing it than to essentially let it be unpoliced, right? Because that's where it gets crazy. Is when you have people selling it for insane prices or making mad amounts of cash and employing 10 people who spend their days, writing bot scripts so that people will go farm
or
money and stuff. Yeah.
or you could just pull an epic game move like what Epic's did with Rocket League and take out trading completely, which there was a huge petition to bring it back, and a lot of people were pissed about it.
Well,
I'm
see,
still like pissed about it.
I can.
And you can't do that. You can't do that in Star Citizen though.
Yeah, it's things you can't uninstall. You can't do that.
Uninstall.
It starts
No,
saying, okay, cool. So we want a game with
you
a
can't.
simulated economy, but you can't trade anymore. Excuse me?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what? It's like, I don't, I
Hot
don't get it.
take, right? Hot take.
But I mean, that would be
No.
a very draconian way of dealing with it. But I mean, we've
Mhm.
seen we've seen crazier. So, but yeah, I did like Supply or Die. I thought it was a good idea. I think it's a great thing that
Mhm.
players can start to make money. It's actually one of the things that brought a lot of people in my community together to play together for the
Yeah,
first time in a long time. You know?
exactly. I meant to bring that up as well. It brought the, like the people that are part of my stream together, and we were all having fun doing it because we were making money, we were spending money. My ship hangar is full. Like I'm still sitting on a good amount of AUEC. Like I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was great. It's like you almost have to jump on it while it's good before it's too late, and it's kind of like that,
It's
because
like that now.
now
Yeah.
it's hard to get stuff unless
Yeah.
you're going out there mining. So
Yeah.
you got the minute it happens, you better get on it.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. And I don't agree with FOMO in anything really. I think it's not the
hmm
greatest. I think not everybody always has the same funds and money flow to buy things at the same time. And I think
Right.
forcing people to buy things during a window is kind of predatory.
It
It's
is. It
I'm not a fan
definitely
of that
is.
stuff. And as much as I, like I say all the time when I said I don't know how many times already, like I like to give praise where praise is warranted. I also like to point out where things are where you should be critical about something. And as great as the game is as a game, their monetization, I can understand why a lot of people have problems with it, like Pirate Software. Now, even though Pirate Software, I think, got it a little wrong when he first analyzed it and the way he was looking at the store, it doesn't necessarily line up the
As a
way.
storefront.
That's the thing is you look at the
He,
storefront and you're like, holy crap, how much are these
yeah,
things? Like,
yeah, he called Star Citizen a storefront. That's all it
yeah.
is a storefront.
And he made some
And
really good points. And
mhm.
but the problem is people see that and they go, what are they? What is this? Like
I
what?
know. Can you imagine? Like, I think Actually, I know what it's like. When I first got onto the RSI website and I saw some of the cost of the ships, I was like, what the actual, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what the actual hell? Like, this is crazy. And I think that could be intimidating for any new player that's coming in here and looking at that, or, you know. Yeah, exactly. Scam. A lot of people said it was scammy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's a scam. And I know people that call this game a scam to this day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Nah, it's really not a
I mean,
scam. I mean,
the day
you could
before was
play
a
it
scam.
free. Yeah, yeah, there you go. The day and the Quinfall is looking like it might be scammy too.
Really? I haven't heard much
Same
about that one.
company, same company,
Oh, well, then yeah, you're
just
screwed.
under different
Yeah,
names.
yeah,
They
no, no,
they changed the
don't
name. Yep,
trust them. Just anything those two
yep,
guys do, just stay very far,
yeah,
far away.
yep. The Quinfall. Yeah, I had it on my wish list, and then I started hearing, oh, the day before, and yeah, no,
Oh
but
yeah, everybody had it on their wish list. It was the most wish listed
yeah,
game on Steam.
yeah,
All
um,
right, if you don't mind, I think we need
yeah,
to take a little commercial break, get some
sure,
stuff out of the
yeah, that's
way,
fine.
and rest our throats for a second. I need to go grab some more coffee. You know, you don't think about it, but it's exhausting to talk for a long time.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah,
How
so
did they? What did they say in French?
santé,
Saute,
santé.
not salute. Okay.
Salud is Italian, Spanish.
Okay.
Uh, santé would be French.
Okay. I'll say bonne nuit. Comment ça va? Welcome to Le Tide Stream.
All right, let's keep the ball rolling. All right, so
Yes.
okay, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about supply or die, and it's something that you had brought up actually wanting to talk about, is because I think this is a really good intro to like bigger group play, and so I think this is
Mhm.
really going to shape how orgs do closer to end game content or large
Yeah.
scale operations, because yeah, then that leads into space stations and you know everything we're going to see around that, whether it be
Well.
crafting it, supplying it, all that, defending
Hmm.
it.
And I'll just want to jump back. The supplier die was great because not I know that friends that do have Polarises, they are not cheap to own. Um, so it's good that we're getting this kind of big payout kind of stuff coming through, and I love it. I love it, and that's gonna it ties into the orgs and like getting your org together and going out there and working together, and I love that aspect of it. Like my personal org that it's been growing, and I'm like, hell yeah. I told myself I don't want to run another guild or whatever again. Like it was just a lot for me, but I'm finding this, like, I'm taking a more lax approach to my org, and when like first 15 people, they're captains, and then if we get bigger, that we got the grunts in there, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying, and they could work their ways up through the ranks. Because right now I see it as everybody's in equal opportunities in my org, and you don't have to share everything with the org, but if we're doing org stuff, let's make sure we get even payouts to everybody. And that's been wonderful with these big paying missions.
yeah,
It's been
that
it's
are
been
shareable, which
awesome.
is
Yes,
huge.
they're shareable. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That are shareable. That's awesome. I love it. And everybody gets a cut. We all do our work, and it's not just one man for himself. I mean, and even if that's the case, your gameplay, there's nothing wrong with that. But I love the org aspect of it.
it's huge, and I think you just brought
Mm-hmm.
up a really good point. Is the game's better when everyone benefits. Life is better when
I
everyone
agree.
benefits,
I
right?
agree.
Like bring in some of that common sense to the game
Yeah.
and get people working together towards common goals. Like I think that's huge. I think
Yeah.
it's huge. I think it's something that needs to be a bit more of a natural thing that happens within the game. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of people will bring up, you know, like yeah, you know, this toxic murder hobo and griefer stuff. Like, I don't mind murder hobos. I think there's still a little bit of a limit between a murder hobo and a griefer. Griefer is something completely different. I see that as more of someone who's just there, who takes enjoyment off of ruining your enjoyment. And
Yeah,
it's
somebody was in my chat was explaining the difference between a it was somebody in my Discord when we were in a call that was explaining the difference between a griefer and somebody that goes out and just kills someone for whatever. And I wish I paid attention because I could have had some input on that.
but no, I bring that up because I think as the game progresses, you'll have systems that come into place that will naturally kind of curb some of that. And what I mean by that is,
Mhm.
like, for example, Stanton needs to be policed, whether by the UEE or by a police force around specific planets, Crusader, Microtech, Hurston.
Mhm.
They each already have their security force. They're just not patrolling the skies around. And that'll be a thing eventually. So you'll have reaction forces enforcing, you know,
Even
crime
even out of
stats
comms
out of
in Stanton.
comms. That's a whole different, it's a whole different ball
See
game, you know,
that's where
because
I kind of am like because when I what I envisioned, like what my gameplay, what I'm looking forward to is the fact of interdicting ships out of comms range in Stanton and robbing him or I'm sorry, not robbing. What's the word I'm looking for? The
appropriating their
transferring of
valuables.
the
Yeah.
transferring of their cargo to my ship, whether they willingly give it up or not. That's kind of and maybe people will see me as like a murder hobo or whatever. Like I don't know, but that's kind of like what I want to do. And I keep talking to Riot like, well, when do you think the Zeus MR is going to come out? Because somebody gave me this, and I'm going to upgrade to this, and I want the Zeus MR. And that Riot just says that's all he talks about is the Zeus MR. But that's the kind of stuff I'm looking forward to. Is like, yeah, let's go be fucking space pirates. I'm
So
all for being a space pirate.
they talked about this, or I was watching this. I think it was on Space Tomatoes channel on one of his videos recently, and he brought up a really good point, which was there were systems they tried out in the game that just didn't work out. And Riot
Hmm.
points to one right now is there were teams that would start moving around. There, if you attacked an outpost, they would be reinforced by backup, and a
Hmm.
dropship like a Cuddy Black would come in and bring in reinforcements. They've tried to bring stuff like that in. The problem is the servers couldn't handle it with the game load on a single server. So
Hmm.
they kind of lifted their foot until meshing became a reality and the load could be handled better and shared between the different servers. So there was security teams, there have been, reinforcements arriving to places. One of the
And
other
that's kind of cool.
ones that they want to implement is ships, NPC ships going down to a planet, landing, staying there for a while, maybe NPCs interacting. So those are potential targets to pirate for anyone.
Hmm.
So it opens up a piracy game loop to people who are maybe a little too timid to go after other players, but who want to
Other
try
players,
that type of gameplay. And it'll
right?
also take some of the heat off of players if pirates have another outlet where they can go get, those materials, still have that gameplay loop. It's just, it's not
Hmm.
a real person, it's an NPC. But that can also be refreshing. And, you got to always see it as a balance. It can't ever go too far in
Hmm.
favor of the PvP, and it can't ever go too far in favor of the
Right.
PvE. And I know there's a
Oh,
lot of people arguing that right now it's more in favor of PvE, but PvP
oh,
is the entirety
I-
of Pyro.
I've seen people cry that Pyro is a PvP zone. That there it's lawless. And you know what? Let me tell you. I've spent some time in Pyro. The amount of times that I have died to other players has mostly been in CZ. I think probably once or twice have I been killed around a station, and that was it. That's it. Once or twice. And like I'm not huge on PvP just because I'm not I like it, like I'm okay with it. I'm neutral about it. I like it and for the fact that, okay, you're mentioning that they want to bring in these PvE pirate missions, that would be phenomenal, but right now I have to practice on humans. So am I later on going to find that pirating NPCs will be fun? I don't know. I don't know. Um I think it's I really like the pirate aspect.
And I
Yeah,
think
I like the challenge of real people too, but I'm more of that ship to ship kind of combat. I don't like, ground foot CZ stuff.
So that's interesting because most of the times that I've been killed by other players in Pyro has been at outposts.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Outpost, yeah,
yeah,
Outpost
what's
is
up,
one of them.
Jiwa?
Jiwa.
Outposts have been typically pretty dangerous because some of them, everything happens there, especially in the early game. With all the
Mm-hmm.
contracts and the rep that you're trying to grind up. So, like, I mean, I think I went to one. There was like 6 players that met up there by accident. It was just kind of like, so who shoots first and who's gonna be the last one standing, kind of thing. And it's not like I'm not saying that's as a complaint at all. It's just like I think that's where I've died the most. Contested zones, I have died in them, but so far I think I'm coming up. If there was a KD for contested zones, I think I'm in the positive right now.
Oh,
Like,
I'm definitely in the negative.
but like, and I really, really like the idea of the contested zones because it gives a natural area for PvP to occur that gives people their Tarkov fix a little bit, where you have like a bit of an
Hmm.
extractor within the game.
Right.
I love the loot, and a lot of people aren't fans of the fact that the higher grade components are hidden in there. I agree with that. I still think they should give it a
Yeah.
try and try to get them themselves going with a group. I've offered to people at times, who aren't keen on that kind of stuff. Like, I'll take you in with a group. Like, you'll see it's actually pretty fun. But I still
Mhm.
agree with that sentiment because those components shouldn't just be locked behind PvP stuff. It should also be available other routes.
I I agree as well that those components, like the military and stealth components, shouldn't be locked behind CZ zones. And like NDBs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll tell you
The
what, I love my
PA2, yeah.
NDBs. Yeah, I love my NDBs on my Cutlass Black. That I don't care. It's got 6 freaking guns with with a gunner. That thing will murder.
I mean, no,
But no,
Cuddy Blacks
I
are
agree.
cool, and the NDBs are
I
great
love it.
weapons, but
Yeah,
I
I
think
love it. But
and I don't think I tried to be a little realistic. It's like this is the first iteration of this new way of doing things with
mhm.
forcing you through gameplay to get what you want, and not just, hey, can somebody send me 10 million in chat? You get that 10 million and go buy everything, which
Have I
glad
ever
doesn't
done
have.
that for Vulture?
Yeah,
Maybe I'm a
I've,
little embarrassed, but yeah,
I think
I did
everyone's
that.
done it at some point where it's like, oh, somebody giving out free money. Yeah, I'll take some of that.
One of the first times that I played this game, this was 317. Okay, I popped into chat and I was like, "Hey, how do I do this?" I'm just asking question. This guy says, "Hey, send me a party invite." I was at New Babbage because, like, I thought it was cool looking place. I was at
Mm-hmm.
New Babbage. This guy just straight up sends me like 2 million in game cred, and I was like, "Really?" Like, I was like, "Is that a lot?" Like, I didn't know what the
Yeah,
currency value was, and I was like brand spanking new, and he sent me and my buddy like 2 million apiece. Um, and that boils back to the community being awesome. But I don't
yeah.
know where I was going with this. I kind of lost track.
It happens. Don't worry about it. But
I
no,
lost
like
track.
I think it's what's up, Kinky. I think it's really important that you have these larger operations where people have to work together, where you're hopefully not fighting the game and fighting other players or NPCs, and
Hmm.
not features. In order to get through stuff, and I think Supplier Die did a good job at that. And I think if they
Yep.
continue down this line and they keep refining things and they listen to us when we say that was not a good idea, please don't do that again. I'm not saying that they have to listen to us to the letter. They shouldn't because they have their own creative vision. They have
Hmm.
their own knowledge of what they can and can't achieve internally. So listen to us when we say something is truly a problem. And it doesn't necessarily mean the
Yeah.
entire thing has to be redesigned, but the balance or the way it's implemented is just not working.
Yeah. Yep. And I agree. Like supplier die, it needs a little bit of fine tunement, like
Yeah.
with the commodities, I believe. Um, but as far as it goes, I thought it was a pretty solid release of content in a sense. Like I did, I truly enjoyed doing supply or die. Like it brought out a lot of people to come together. and do some missions and make some money and have a blast in the game, even though we were dealing with features during some of it. But you know what? Hey, I think it was a good move. I really do.
I mean, anything that drives players to come back into the game is a good move, right? A little bit of
Mm-hmm.
stability, which we got. We got some. We got enough so that the game remains playable for the majority of your gaming time, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
still going to be some little bugs. There's still little problems.
Yep.
Still
Yep.
things you're going to fight with, but overall, it's more playable. Now remember,
Yeah.
better doesn't mean good, but it is
Right.
better than what it was. So
Yeah.
there's that. And if they can just get freight elevators working, and they can just
What?
add to the variety of places where you can retrieve these materials, because not everybody's going to enjoy mining, not everybody's going to enjoy salvaging, not everybody's going to enjoy
Right.
doing the PvP. Some may just want to do one of those three. Some want to do all three. Like
Yeah.
I've tried everything so far in Supplier Die except to go for Dedatrine. That's the only thing I haven't given a try, but I can't seem to get a team big enough because I feel like you
Mm-hmm.
really have to go in with a minimum of 6
You
people.
got to go in somebody with a cargo and maybe an escort or two.
Yeah.
I feel like, and like a crew, like maybe a small crew,
Like yeah, two,
small
three
ground
people on
crew.
the ground and two, three people in the
Yeah.
air covering you. Like,
Yeah.
and you got to hope a bigger team doesn't show up.
Who was I watching? Who was I watching the other day? It was Tom.
Tom Hanks,
uh, no, the other Tom. Tom Beckhauser.
Tom Beckhauser, yeah.
Yeah, and he was at one of the supply depots solo, and he was trying to take over a ship that was getting it, but the problem was there was a Super Hornet watching the ship, and it completely stopped him from taking over that ship. And I was like, you know, if he just had some people there with him, he probably could take out, do some stuff. And that I kind of think I love that aspect of it. I tried once to go get the Dedatrine and immediately got murdered and said, "Nope, I'm not good enough for this yet."
So like I raided Hangry Sarah the other day, and she was
Hmm.
in the middle of doing Dedatrine stuff with a group. I don't know if it was her org or not. I'm assuming probably yes, but with a
Hmm.
larger group, and they looked like they were doing pretty well. Like they had a good handle on what they needed to do. There was a large group. There was like air cover and stuff like that. And really, you must find awesome servers. Or maybe because the other thing is sometimes you get people stop going to these areas completely because they believe they're broken.
Hmm.
Like there are places that I've kind of stopped going to completely in the verse at times because I know or I believe it's broken.
Right.
And I think I did like the attempt of making a PvP part to this event, which was supposed to be a Dedatrine, which Riot kind of points out was supposed to kind of be the new
The
jump
next
town,
jump down. Yep.
which makes a lot of sense. The problem is, yeah, it didn't play out that way, and I think it's mainly the fact that freight elevators just don't work often enough for it to be something that you can want to go do all
Or
the
people
time.
bork them.
Yeah, that I really don't understand. Purposely
And
borking the
I
elevators, like
and I feel like if you're caught purposely breaking a game mechanic like that, that should be kind of a severe
this should
punishment.
be,
Not
yeah, that
not
should
a
be,
ban, but maybe a severe like suspension of
or
gameplay. Or
maybe
you
first
know,
time a warning, second time a suspension, third time
yeah.
longer
Well,
suspension.
I mean, no, they know what they're doing. Obviously, they know what they're doing. They're borking it on purpose. Like these guys are out there to cause, you know,
Hmm.
malicious intent for other players not to enjoy the game. For what I'm saying? It's like
I always
it's borking
try.
them on purpose. I feel like it should be more than a warning for that level of offense.
The only reason why I
Duping, I could
like
see a warning.
to, the only reason why I like to always leave a sliver of benefit of the doubt is because this game has been so janky and borked at times that without even realizing it, you could dupe,
You
exploit
could bork it.
something,
Yeah,
break
yeah,
something without realizing that you had
n-
done the
without
wrong.
knowing.
And I think a lot of times people will break stuff just out of frustration and impatience, clicking through
Hmm.
stuff really quickly, trying to back out of something really quickly, not letting an action complete itself.
Maybe you're right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I think, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think just in terms of benefit of the doubt, there should always be some kind of a warning first. Because you can also expect CIG to constantly dive through the data of every single occurrence
Right.
where,
Monitor all the players.
right, we would
Yeah, I
love for
agree.
that to be a thing, and perhaps one day that'll
Well,
be easier, but
I mean, they could monitor say like when they put out events like this, they could monitor said cargo spots that people would be getting, you know, that cargo from, and if anybody's looks like somebody's doing something malicious, yeah, maybe a warning, and then if it happens again on their account, put them on a watch list, and if it happens on their account, then yeah, that would be
That would make
suspension time.
sense, and I think that's something that's probably more
Hmm.
possible. I don't think that's
Yeah,
something that they have in their sites at all right now. I don't think
right.
they're doing too
Yeah.
much of that,
Well, I think they need
unfortunately.
to start thinking about it. To be
They
honest, like
do, and that's
it
definitely for 1.0. They have to.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's
Um,
got to be ready for 1.0.
and I
It,
like
it
we were
needs to
talking
be.
about earlier. I think 1.0 is probably 2-3 years away because it'll. I think they're going to pump out 1 to 2 systems next year, and then it'll just leave
Hmm.
one more to get out. Um, Also, Squadron 42 will be released. Hopefully at the beginning
Isn't
of
it the
next
end of
year.
this year?
No, beginning of next year. They said
Beginning of next year.
2026. Son of a bitch.
Okay.
Still so pissed off at that. That was like my highlight. I was looking forward to playing in 2025 was
I
Squadron 42.
I watched the trailer. What was it, like the 2 hour gameplay or whatever, hour and a half gameplay trailer of it?
Mm-hmm.
And dude, it looked really freaking cool. And I could still see a couple bugs here and there that happened during that recording, but it did look pretty awesome. I might play it just for the lore of
Oh,
it,
you'll
but
have to,
I don't.
man. On
I
stream, you gotta.
or I could watch somebody play it. I
Yeah,
mean,
you can always come
you
hang
know.
out. That's for sure. But
Yeah, if you stream it, I'll come show my support, and I'll get all the lore without the bore
I
of,
mean, I
you
love
know what I mean.
single player
I
space operas, so I'm just like I loved Mass
I mean,
Effect. Loved that
yeah,
game, that series. So like
yeah,
I'm really looking for it,
not
but I
my
get
style.
it's not everybody's thing. Like but yeah, I will hopefully enjoy the shit out of that thing. But the reason why I bring it up is because I think I forget I think it's Nyx or there's one system that is in Squadron 42 that I think they're waiting for it to be released so that they can put it into the PU. And by the way, once Squadron 42 releases, there's also the chance they may decide to release all 5 of the systems that are in there
Hmm.
into the game shortly after. Now we'll see how that kind of coincides with the rest of the game, but um so yeah, we'll see. But I think, leading up to the space stations, this is a good step. I think the space stations are going to be something. So here's the thing that kind of bothers me with space stations, right? Is how accessible are they going to be for smaller orgs? I don't want the game to become 10 major orgs that essentially control everything.
Eve Online.
Yeah, basically. Nobody wants that. And that'll
Yeah.
be the nail in the coffin, and that'll be what pushes people to really ask for PvE servers.
Hmm. Um. So I have many questions about the space because I watched that video by a big streamer
Ollie?
slash YouTuber that does content for this game, and I kind of watched a playthrough of, or a viewpoint on it, and I want to know, can you put that space station base anywhere in space, or does it have to be in certain spots?
That's a good
The
question.
fact that kind of turned me off to it was the fact that you need the Pioneer in order to build it. Um, I'm not looking to have to go buy a ship in order to build a space station base. I think that kind of sucks.
I don't mind that. See, to be honest, because I think that's a normal
Yeah.
logical step that, a large organization should be able to accomplish relatively easily. And to kind of go off of what Riot was just saying, like, I agree there should be a benefit for having a large org. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that benefit will naturally be faster construction time, ability to bring in more resources, have more manpower to get things
Right.
done. That'll be
Right.
the first benefit of having a large org. What's up, Baron?
Yeah.
Welcome in. But I think you can't have the large orgs dictating what's happening completely in the game. Now, should they have a little bit of influence on how things are going? Yeah, absolutely. Because if they decide to make their space station above, let's say, Crusader, Crusader is going to suck if you're not in that org. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's also
Yeah.
something to take into consideration. I think there needs to be something for large orgs, but I don't think it can be we now control everything.
I want to be able to put my space station out in the middle of nowhere space, right? Because I like the fact of being secluded. I think that's probably revolves to the introvertness of myself as a person. But yeah, out in the middle of nowhere, like, nobody's going to mess with us
Mm-hmm.
type thing. And
A
if they
hidden
do,
base
yeah, hidden pirate base, like, you know,
in a cave.
what in
Yeah.
a not in a cave, maybe not in a cave, but in space, definitely. I mean, if you want to do cave, that's cool.
I
Like,
mean, like,
I'm
I
like
and
out in
I
space station.
I agree with what's Ryan's saying, and I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think large orgs should have a benefit, but then I think there's just
Hmm.
needs to be different sizes of space stations. Like there
I
should be a
agree.
size that
I
is
absolutely agree.
achievable by a certain
Yes,
size of an org, but then if you've got 1,000 people in your org, yeah, you should have a massive freaking space
massive
station.
station. You would need a
Yeah.
massive station. You would need that. And I would go back to the org collecting, materials and getting it there and, having it built. And I agree 100% with that. But make it determinable about the size that you could build for your space station depending on,
And the real
make
reason
different
why
levels, different tiers,
yeah,
different
and
tiers.
the real reason why I think that's important is because what'll naturally happen is if it's too unattainable for smaller teams, smaller orgs, they will find themselves all being assimilated into bigger orgs in
Hmm.
order to enjoy that game loop, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you want players to feel like they have the freedom, because that's one of the things that always drove me crazy. And I'm going to use this example, World of Warcraft, is I hated
Hmm.
having to join an org or a guild or whatever in order to go do bigger stuff. That just drove me crazy. And it's actually content that I eventually just lost interest in because
Yep.
I don't want to have to go befriend 50 people and, like all that stuff.
Exactly.
Like, ugh. I
and
enjoy
and
playing
that's
with
what I
these
was
five or these 10.
kind of talking to you about earlier before we started the podcast. Like, there's only one person's another org that I would join, and that one person
Yeah.
it would be his org. It's not out of offense to anybody. Like, if somebody invited me to their org that I know through stream or Discord or whatever, yeah, I would probably consider it. But as far as just joining some random large org, it would be that one person that I was talking about. And just because cool ass dude, first of all, great community, second of all, and I feel like I get along pretty well over there. Anyways, so, but with that being said, like, I hope it is achievable even by small orgs to build like a smaller size space station or whatever space base.
Or at
I
least,
really,
force alliances between smaller orgs. That would be
yeah,
fun.
or an
To
alliance,
have an
yeah,
org you're friendly
absolutely,
with, which I think should
yeah.
something that smaller orgs should
And
naturally be doing. Like,
I think don't they have that an alliance thing on the org page itself?
I think it's something that they plan. I don't think
Yeah,
it's really
okay.
implemented right now, but I know once they get
Implemented.
that whole UI implemented and working properly, hopefully sooner than later, that'll be a real step up for that kind of gameplay and having
Mm-hmm.
access to bigger teams and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
finding groups that maybe you
More resources.
identify with more than others, or you get
Yeah.
along with more than others, and creating reasons, and also just needing a UI to be able to be like, cool, well, we're gonna split the rewards based on the guild. How do you kind of determine that? How do you, because they also say that rewards, they want them to be dynamic to the scale, to the size of your group. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it'll be to the skill level of your group. That's going to be hard to kind of gauge until they have like, I don't think they're really ever going to do skill trees, but they talked about like skill points or like grinding a certain amount of stats, like to have better stamina or strength or something like that, or endurance.
Right.
That was something that was talked about. I have no idea where that's at in development, or if it's even still being talked about being developed, but that was something they had briefly thrown around. I think I wouldn't mind that. It'd give me a reason to play, to have,
Mm-hmm.
the best stamina I could, so that I can run for more than 30 seconds without my player's heart rate jumping up to 160 and him about to have a freaking stroke. But so that would be nice. I wouldn't mind that at all. Maybe it doesn't have to go hardcore like Tarkov. Tarkov went too hardcore with that. Like a level 1 compared to a level 60 in Tarkov, it's night and day.
Massive.
It's
Massive.
massive. It's so
Yeah.
bad. The same thing could be said for a lot of other games. There has to be a massive difference between level 1 and 60, right? But
Oh
it
yeah.
it's in a sim. I don't think it makes as much sense, like, to have that kind of a
Right.
gameplay. I think it's a little bit more of a stretch. But
Character stats.
yeah, character stats. I mean, I think they can be helpful. And I think they can be a good thing. But yeah. So anyways, so I mean, kind of
Yeah.
final thoughts on where you think the game is right now and how do you think it's going to progress over the next month?
Oh, I don't want to be wishful or like get anybody's hopes up,
Yeah,
but
no,
man,
feed into the
I feel
copium and
like
hopium. It's fine.
the copium and hopi elevators. Let's come on, let's get it going. Come on, and just I don't care what stops, just fix the elevators, all of them, including the cargo elevators. Like
Yeah.
it's I don't know if you've experienced this one right now, but you'll go into an elevator and it'll open up during travel and you just see space and you're like, okay, this
No,
is
I
where
love
I'm
it.
at right now.
I was joking about this last night with Tula, I think, or Dark, and it's like, no, elevators are less deadly as long as you know
Yeah.
what you're doing. And yes, you go through the twilight zone. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually enjoyable. You see something different
Yeah, you
now.
see you see something different.
You just can't move. You just got to stay
Yeah.
very, very
No,
still. Like,
I gotta
like,
it's I remember what was it, 318, where if you jumped into an elevator, that was it. That was like if you're going from your platform or whatever and you jumped physically into that elevator, that was it. You were done. You were done. And it's not that bad now. It's not that bad now, but I still do get like pushed out due to rendering lag of another player or
oh
whatever.
yeah.
I push somebody out due to rendering lag, just the game not catching up to where that player is located, and you're like, what the just happened to me? Where am I? Where am I? What's going on? You killed me, you son of a.
No, I mean, there's so many
But yeah,
weird things with elevators. Like, there's one
yeah,
that I get once in a while where I'll be standing in front of the elevator, and then the elevator, I guess, comes from behind me, scoops me up, and I pop into it on the other side of the door, and I'm like, I don't know how I got here.
yeah. So yeah,
Like,
where you press the elevator button and you're maybe like standing off a little bit of to the side, and then boom, just instantly you're in the elevator.
yep.
It's and that's actually,
It's.
don't mean to promote or anything, but that's one of my better TikToks that it was like somebody commented, I don't understand why that's so scary because they saw me walking out of a black elevator. And I was like,
It's
it
terrifying.
was just rendering lag. And it's, yeah, it's, if you know the game, you know the game. But to
Yeah.
somebody that doesn't know the game, they're like, why is that so scary? Like, you have no idea. It's traumatized. We all have PTSD from it.
I mean, nobody trusts elevators. I've always said they're the
Yeah.
true end boss in this game. Like, they're
Yeah,
the
they really
real.
are.
If you can beat
It's PvE,
elevators,
players versus elevators.
yeah, exactly. That's your first challenge in the game is
Yeah,
exiting elevators and getting in and exiting. Yeah, it's a real
they should put
challenge.
that in the tutorial.
So where do you think this new patch 4.1, do you think that'll give us a better experience here in the short term or do you think it'll be
God,
rocky?
it's going to be rocky. It's going to be rocky in the beginning. And especially with the looting system, I know there's going to be some gripe or maybe a lot of gripe about it. Am I looking forward to 4.1? Yes, I am, because of the simple fact that we are hopefully progressing forward. Um, and I say hopefully very lightly. But no, I am looking forward to 4.1. In fact, I'm looking forward to jumping into the PTU. I just checked my thing, and
Oh,
no,
I
I
gotta
don't have
download
the
it now too.
PTU folder.
Damn it.
I don't have the
Do
folder
you have a
yet.
hotfix folder?
I don't.
If you have any other folder, just rename it
Rename it to
to
what
PTU.
I all I have is live folder.
Okay, so you can copy that to save
Mm-hmm.
yourself some time. Then once it's
Uh-huh.
copied, rename it exactly like it shows up in the launcher, PTU in caps, and then
Okay.
go back to the launcher. You can relaunch the launcher if you want. It'll say sometimes install game. Click it anyways. It'll recognize the folder and just update it.
Okay.
So it's a time save.
Legit. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to getting into that and trying out that new content um that I seen
The
on somebody's stream.
the theaters
Yeah.
of war stuff with the satellite.
Yeah, dragging that big battery from one place to another. I thought that looked pretty cool.
I didn't see that yet. I'll have to go check it out.
Oh yeah, go see it. Go see it. You
That'll be
got.
something to
I
look
don't want. I
forward
don't want to
to.
spoil it. I don't want to spoil it for you. You
Oh,
just
you're good.
all you knew is it's a big battery.
Maybe we'll have to go join up in PTU later. But
Yeah, I'm all for it.
um, I think I think we're gonna call it here for this show. I want
Okay.
to say thank you so much, Devil's Night, for
Dude,
coming
thanks for
out.
having
And
me, man.
no, this was fun. This was a good
I'm
discussion, and
not gonna lie, I was hella nervous about doing this, but having fun doing it.
no reason to be nervous. It's just talking. You do it all the time on stream.
I know, but it's my streams are like, you know what I mean? It's different. It's
Your
fun.
stream's fun.
I had a good time. I
No,
had a
it's
good
nice
time
to
for sure.
sometimes take a step back and talk about it, get other
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
opinions, hear what the chat has to say. Thank you, Attack Cat. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Tula. Thank you, all of you, for being here and participating. I know podcasts can kind of be weird sometimes because the streamers aren't as interactive with chat, but we appreciate you all understanding, and we're still
You
looking,
just
we're still paying attention, just trying to keep our
you
train of thought.
you gotta be like the big streamers that read like every 20 or 30th comment.
Right? I don't know how they get away with it, man. Like, I mean,
I
they
don't
have it
know,
on
man.
like
I don't know
they
either.
have it on like slow roll already, like
I don't
so
know
they
how
see
they
things
do it,
three
man.
minutes late. But yeah, no, that's it's problems for future us.
Yeah,
Um, but
future us. I
no,
love that. Yep.
yeah, no, you got to think
We'll
positive.
figure it out. We'll figure it out one of these
Okay,
days.
exactly. But no, I think this was a lot of fun. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, this is the first episode we've done in a year, and now the format I'm going to be doing is a little different. So tired talks will be one-on-ones. They'll be the first part will be interview, kind of get to know the streamer, the guest, and then from there we'll go into discussions. Then I'm going to bring back the tired table soon, and that'll be a roundtable discussion between multiple people around a specific topic in Star Citizen. So
Dude, I
um,
hope you get a round table graphic
I have
and
one
like,
already.
oh, that's awesome.
I'm
Hell
way
yeah.
ahead of you.
Let's go. Knights of the Retired Round Table.
Exactly.
Love it.
Exactly.
Love it. Love it.
So that's the goal. But yeah, this episode will hopefully be up on YouTube by tomorrow, depending on how long it takes me to edit these 2.5 hours. Wow, we talked a lot.
I know we did.
But there's a lot to say about the game right now, and there was a
There
lot of
is. There is.
interesting feedback and chat worth talking about too. So, and all right, everybody. So yeah, again, big thanks to Devil's Night. If you haven't dropped him a follow yet, you really should. But all right, everybody, thank you again for being here. This was fun. We're gonna raid out, throw up the ending and raid
Woohoo.
out. Let's see, who is there to raid?